Let me come clean right from the beginning of this video. I love the 11th generation Honda Civic. This car right here in particular is a 2024 Honda Civic Sport, but I think the 11th gen Honda Civic as a whole is one of the best newish used cars that could be bought. And let me get into why during this review. Welcome to the Auto 101. Welcome to another car review. And today we're taking a look at this 2024 11th generation Honda Civic. Let's get into it. I used to own an 8th generation Honda Civic. It was a 2006 Civic. And to me, to this day, it's one of the best cars that I've ever driven. I love the way it looked on the outside. I love the way the interior felt. And I also really enjoyed the driving experience. The 9th generation was a bit of a dud for Honda. It wasn't the most Civic-y of Civics. With the 10th generation, they kind of improved the Civic again, but the styling wasn't to everyone's taste. But this 11th generation, I think, is a quintessential Civic that does everything really, really well, especially as an everyday type of car. And in 2024, as an everyday car, especially as an everyday used car, what's really important? I think it boils down to a few things. Firstly is efficiency and reliability. Secondly is practicality and comfort. Thirdly is having a robust enough feature set to make it feel like you're driving a car in 2024. And lastly, it's price, because price is important. And especially in the used car market, price is very important. And this car really shines on all of those attributes. And let's dig into why during this review. So this 11th generation Civic was introduced by Honda all the way back in 2021 as a 2022 model year. So it's been out for a few years now. 2022, 2023, and 2024 all had this kind of exact body style with the same engines and the same powertrains. For 2025, they've refreshed the Civic. They've introduced a new hybrid. They've changed the standard engine. But we're taking a look at the pre-refresh because I think it's a great used car. Point number one, reliability and efficiency. This car came with a total of 4 engine / powertrain options in the US. Firstly, it's a standard 2-liter inline, naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. That's the engine that's probably the most common for the Civic. Then there's a 1.5-liter turbo 4. That's also pretty common. Then there's the Civic Si, which has an upgraded version of that 1.5-liter turbo 4, a different tune, a bit more power, etc. And then there's the holy grail, the top of the line Type R, which is actually a grail car for me. And that has the venerable K20 Honda engine with a turbocharger, over 300 horsepower, manual transmission, amazing car. But we're looking at the sport model and the kind of the everyday version of the Civic, which came with those first 2 engines I mentioned. And they're both really, really great powertrains. Super efficient, super reliable. The standard 2-liter comes with 158 horsepower, 138 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers don't sound fantastic on paper, but the Civic is actually a very, very light car, under 3,000 pounds, in fact. So that amount of power is sufficient for day-to-day driving. It's very peppy and sporty in city driving and on normal roads. It could actually even hold its own on the highway with executing passing maneuvers. And on back roads, it's plenty of power. I will say, with the CVT transmission, the engine can get a little bit drony and a little bit coarse, especially under wide open throttle when executing those highway passing maneuvers. Some might say that's a bit unrefined, but to me, it's a part of the Honda charm. It's a part of the Honda character. The engine has a certain Honda-ness to it that I really enjoy. The 1.5-liter turbo 4, definitely a bit more refined, a bit more kind of smooth compared to the 2-liter naturally aspirated 4, but there have been more reported instances of stuff going wrong with that 1.5-liter turbo 4. Not a big issue because it is a very common Honda engine. It's in a lot of cars, so there's great parts availability. A lot of mechanics will know how to work on that 1.5-liter turbo 4, so I wouldn't worry too much about those reports of issues with the 1.5-liter turbo 4. Civic Si, same engine, same situation. And the K20 turbo 4 in the Civic Type R is also actually a fairly reliable engine. But reliability is only one part of the equation. What about fuel efficiency? Both the 2-liter naturally aspirated and the 1.5-liter turbo 4 are extremely efficient engines. I'll put the efficiency for the 2-liter here and the efficiency for the 1.5-liter turbo here. And you can see great MPG figures with both of those engines. Everyday car, what's important? Space, practicality. There needs to be room in the car for the driver, the passengers, and all the cargo that's going to be put into the vehicle. Now, I know what you're thinking. The Civic is a sedan. It's inherently going to be less practical, less spacious than a small SUV. And to a certain extent, that's correct. But also, there's some attributes of the Civic that really do make it very spacious and practical for a day-to-day driving experience. Firstly, the front seat room. Plenty of room for the driver. Good headroom, good shoulder room, good knee room, good leg room. Really no issues for anyone of most height sizes in the Honda Civic. It's very configurable, very adjustable for the seat. Same exact situation for the front passenger seat. And ergonomically, the way the Civic has been laid out makes it feel very comfortable and spacious for day-to-day driving. It's a very, very nice ergonomic setup, and that's something that I think Honda has always done really well. And you can even see here it looks very spacious. But what's nice about the Civic is that there's also a ton of rear seat room. Lots of leg room, lots of knee room, lots of headroom. That being said, there is a hump in the middle, so the middle seat won't be as comfortable as cars that have a flat rear floor, which is weird because the Civic used to, so I don't know why this one doesn't. Also, it is a sedan, and the Civic is lower than most, so it actually is harder to get in and out of than a small SUV, but that's inherent with any sedan. And from a cargo practicality standpoint, the Civic has a lot of room. There's some luggage in here right now, but it is a very spacious trunk. Some issues with the trunk, the gooseneck, hinges, not ideal. And for some reason, I don't know why Honda continues to do this, but they don't put a handle here to close the trunk. It's like a little piece of plastic. It probably costs like 10 cents. Honda, just put it in. It's not a big deal. That being said, it is a spacious trunk and lots of room to put stuff in. It's not an SUV, so horizontally there's not as much space, but depth-wise and vertical width-wise, it is really, really spacious. Let's just quickly talk about design and quality before we get into the features. Design looks great. It's very simple, very clean, a lot of hard lines, refined styling, in my opinion. It's not trying to push the boundaries, but it's not understyled either. It has a good amount of flair, a good amount of charm. Overall, it looks very, very premium and kind of minimalistic in a way. It has a very old school Audi kind of look, in my opinion. Material quality is also great. I love the grate here. Feels good, adds a lot to the look. The dash has a nice material. The steering wheel has nice leather. All these buttons are real metal and they're knurled and they're really lit up really well. So it adds to the premium look and feel of the cabin. When we start getting below that, things get iffy. Not a huge fan of this material here, even though it's not gloss black. It does collect a lot of dirt and fingerprints, and I don't like the door panels. There's a lot of hard black plastic, which is not inherently a bad thing, but the hard black plastic Honda has used is a little bit hollow, some sharp edges. I feel like they could have done a better job with that. But all in all, the Civic cabin looks good, largely feels good, and even the parts that don't feel good will stand the test of time and hold up and be durable over a long period. So I am a fan of the interior. Feature-wise, digital dash, that's a good feature to have in 2024. It makes the car feel current. Not a crazy amount of configurability, but there are some options on the left-hand side of the dash with different views that could be had, like range, and you could put a different speed in there. You could adjust some stuff. So it's nice to have a little bit more features with the dashboard. That's always a nice touch. Infotainment screen, it is tiny. It's really small, but it's easy to use. It's quick to use. I like the touchscreen. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto work great. Few complaints. Doesn't have wireless CarPlay. There's also no USB-C charging. And I feel like both of those things kind of date the car a little bit in 2024. But just get a USB-A adapter and it's not really an issue. There's some driving modes down here. That kind of just changes the throttle response and the mapping of the CVT transmission. All the active safety suite features are right here on the steering wheel. There's a good set of active safety features, so that's nice to have. All in all, from a features perspective, not super fully loaded, but the core features that are required in 2024 are present, namely a digital dash, active safety, infotainment with Apple CarPlay, and they're executed relatively well in the Honda Civic, combined with the good-looking interior with some good quality materials. It's a good place to be and a great option for a used car interior. Now, behind the wheel of the 11th generation Civic, the driving experience is really what makes me love this car so much. The driving experience for me is broken down into two components. Firstly, it's the comfort day-to-day aspect, and secondly, it's the fun to drive aspect. And the 11th gen Civic does both of those really well. For the day-to-day grind, the day-to-day commute, the suspension is set up really nicely. It handles potholes and bumps really well. The standard model with the 17-inch wheels is a bit more comfortable than the Sport with the 18s, but the Sport is still very comfortable. And the suspension tuning also makes it a great car on the highway. Whenever there's a crack in the highway or there's construction, it handles all of that stuff really, really well. But what's great about the 11th generation Civic is that it handles amazing on a back road or a mountain road like what we're on right now. It's planted, it's buttoned down, there's great communication and feedback coming in from the wheel. That's a really hard combination to get in a car, especially in a mainstream car under $20,000. And that's really what makes the 11th generation Civic stand out as a value proposition to me, because it combines both of those things so well. And that's rare, not just under $20,000, but in the car market as a whole. And that's really why I love this 11th generation Civic. So then, why is the Civic such a good used car? And I think it's because it hits all those fundamentals really, really well. Great powertrain options, very reliable powertrain options, a lot of space, a practical way to use that space, a great set of basic features and an interior that's well executed, a really fun driving experience, and also a price point that just makes a lot of sense. Under $20,000, getting a package that encompasses all of that is a really, really good value. So all those things, to me, make the 11th generation Honda Civic 22 to 24 one of the best used cars that could be bought right now for a newish used car. That being said, there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of used cars. I would love to hear your thoughts both about the Civic and if you think there's better used cars out there than the Civic. Thank you for watching. Drop your comments down below and I'll catch you next time. Take care.